ليلة تمامه وكماله. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أماه، فقلت وعليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله. فقلت نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل حسن نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ قال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أماه، فقلت وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال لي يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله. فقلت نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه والسلام عليك يا من اختاره الله، أتأذن لي أن أدخل معكما تحت الكساء؟ فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله. فقلت نعم ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله، تأذن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء؟ قال له وعليك السلام يا أخي ويا وصي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرف الكساء وهما بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحمتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم، مسلم لمن سالمهم، وعدو لمن عاداهم، ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم، فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. فقال له عز وجل يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين فقال الأمين جبرائيل: يا رب ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل: هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن رسالتهم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. صل على محمد وآل محمد. صلوات. فقال جبرائيل: يا رب أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض ليكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال له: نعم قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك: وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت السماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضية ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم، فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله: وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله، إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء فقال لأبي: إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول: إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. فقال علي لأبي: يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله؟ فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله: والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي عليه السلام: إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال أبي: رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله: يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا وفيهم مهموم إلا وفرج الله هما إلى يمين ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غما إلى يمين ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجة إلى يمين. As for all the Raja, فقال علي عليه السلام: إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا وكذلك الشيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. صلوات. داستان شجاعت کے دارین میں ایک بے مثل کردار عباس ہے. داستان شجاعت کے دارین میں ایک بے مثل کردار عباس ہے. ان کے لہجے میں ہاشم کی حشمت بھی ہے، ان کے تیور میں حمزہ کی ہیبت بھی ہے. ان کے لہجے میں ہاشم کی حشمت بھی ہے، ان کے تیور میں حمزہ کی ہیبت بھی ہے. ان کے تیور میں حمزہ کی ہیبت بھی ہے. ہر ادا ان کی عمران کا عکس ہے، ان کا باہوں میں جعفر کی طاقت بھی ہے. پیار ہے مصطفیٰ کا حسین و حسن، اور حسنین کا پیار عباس ہے. داستان شجاعت کے دارین میں ایک بے مثل کردار عباس ہے. قبر کیا ہے اندھیرا سگر ہے جہاں معرفت کے سوا کوئی سپنا نہیں. معرفت کے سوا کوئی سپنا نہیں. وہ بہت ہی اندھیرا جگہ ہے وہاں کوئی آور نہیں، کوئی اپنا نہیں. تم سے ملنے لحد میں علی آئیں گے، بولو تنہائی میں اور کیا چاہیے. داستان شجاعت کے دارین میں ایک بے مثل کردار عباس ہے. صلوات. صلوات. دو بھائیوں کی سلطنت ہے عرض کربلا، ایک غازی ایک حسین، ایک غازی ایک حسین. دو بھائیوں کی سلطنت ہے عرض کربلا، ایک غازی ایک حسین، ایک غازی ایک حسین. ایک بھائی دل کا چین ہے اسلام کی بقا، اور دوسرا وفا کی دنیا کا بادشاہ. سچ ہے یہ باخدا کہتے رہو صدا، ایک مصطفیٰ کی جان ہے حیدر کی ایک دعا. ایک غازی ایک حسین، ایک غازی ایک حسین. چلتا ہے کائنات میں سکہ حسین کا، وفا مشق و علم تیرے جاؤ حشم تیرے نغمہ سرائے دو جہاں دل کیوں نہ دے صدا ایک غازی ایک حسین ایک غازی ایک حسین صلوات
نعرہ صلوات اللہم صلی علی محمد. جب کوئی دعا اور نہ دوا کام کرے گی جب کوئی دعا اور نہ دوا کام کرے گی عباس کے پرچم کی ہوا کام کرے گی جب کوئی دعا اور نہ دوا کام کرے گی اکثر یہ علی کہتے تھے غازی کو اٹھا کر اکثر یہ علی کہتے تھے غازی کو اٹھا کر زہرا کی دعا سب سے جدا کام کرے گی جب کوئی دعا اور نہ دوا کام کرے گی اب چاند کا کیا کام رہا گھر میں علی کے اب چاند کا کیا کام رہا گھر میں علی کے ماہ بنی ہاشم کی ضیا کام کرے گی جب کوئی دعا اور نہ دوا کام کرے گی خود دیں گے شہنشاہ وفا اس کو سلامی خود دیں گے شہنشاہ وفا اس کو سلامی کچھ اس طرح فضا کی وفا کام کرے گی جب کوئی دعا اور نہ دوا کام کرے گی شبیر کے روزے سے کفن لے کے چلا ہوں شبیر کے روضے سے، کفن لے کے چلا ہوں، اب میری حفاظت کا قضا کام کرے گی، جب کوئی دعا اور نہ دوا کام کرے گی۔ شبیر کا سر ہے یہ کہیں جھک نہیں سکتا، شبیر کا سر ہے یہ کہیں جھک نہیں سکتا، نیزے کی انی پر بھی انا کام کرے گی، جب کوئی دعا اور نہ دوا کام کرے گی۔ یہ حاضر یہ حضرت عباس ہے سجاد، یہ حاضر یہ حضرت عباس ہے سجاد، قسمت سے زیادہ یہ غذا کام کرے گی، جب کوئی دعا اور نہ دوا کام کرے گی۔ عباس کے پرچم کی ہوا کام کرے گی، جب کوئی دعا اور نہ دوا کام کرے گی۔ درود پڑھنے والے اللہم صلی علی محمد وعلی محمد۔ درود پڑھنے والے اللہم صلی علی محمد وعلی محمد۔ زہرا کے افتخار کا عباس نام ہے، زہرا کے افتخار کا عباس نام ہے، حیدر کی یادگار کا عباس نام ہے، شبیر کے حصار کا عباس نام ہے، پیاسوں کے اعتبار کا عباس نام ہے، سقائے اہل بیت پہ کیا گفتگو کریں، دامن نچوڑ دے تو فرشتے وضو کریں، دامن نچوڑ دے تو فرشتے وضو کریں، دو نام ایک ذات کے عباس اور علی، پیکر ہے معجزات کے عباس اور علی، مطلوب کائنات کے عباس اور علی، لگتے ہیں ایک ساتھ کے عباس اور علی، چادر علی جوڑے پیمبر دکھائی دے، غازی ہو گر نقاب میں حیدر دکھائی دے، غازی ہو گر نقاب میں حیدر دکھائی دے۔ شاباں کی 4 کو ہوا عباس کا نزول، اور تیسری کو آیا جگر گوشہ رسول، آنے میں بھی حسین پہ سبقت نہ کی قبول، عباس با وفا کی وفا کا ہے یہ اصول، بعد حسین دہر میں آیا ہے اس طرح، سورج کے بعد چاند نکلتا ہے جس طرح، سورج کے بعد چاند نکلتا ہے جس طرح، غیرت کی خیمہ گاہ ہے عباس کی نظر، عین خدا کی چاہ ہے عباس کی نظر، شبیریت پناہ ہے عباس کی نظر، محو طواف شاہ ہے عباس کی نظر، آ کر جہاں میں آنکھوں سے چوما حسین کو، دنیا سے جاتے وقت بھی دیکھا حسین کو، دنیا سے جاتے وقت بھی دیکھا حسین کو، شیر خدا کے شیر کی ممکن نہیں مثال، شمشیر اس جری کی ہے آل نبی کی ڈھال، حاصل اسے ہے ضبط شجاعت کبھی کمال، اب تک ہے اس کے غیظ سے دریا کا غیر حال، دنیا نتیجہ دیکھ لے غازی کے صبر کا، پانی طواف کرتا ہے پیاسے کی قبر کا، پانی طواف کرتا ہے پیاسے کی قبر کا، افلاک کو زمین پہ بچھا دیتا یہ جری، ٹھوکر سے 2 جہاں کو ہلا دیتا یہ جری، مٹی میں شامیوں کو ملا دیتا یہ جری، صفین کربلا کو بنا دیتا یہ جری، روکا نہ ہوتا گر اسے حکم امام نے، لے آتا یہ فرات کو خیموں کے سامنے، لے آتا یہ فرات کو خیموں کے سامنے، کیا لکھے اس کی شان تکلم تیرا قلم، عباس کی وفا سے وفاؤں کا ہے بھرم، صدقہ ہے اس کے شانوں کا گھر گھر پہ ہے علم، آواز دے رہا ہے کوئی صاحب کرم، صد آفرین تربیت دل نشین کو، زہرا سلام کرتی ہیں ام البنین کو، زہرا سلام کرتی ہیں ام البنین کو۔ درود پڑھ لیں کیا صلی اللہ محمد۔
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعمه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون، الذي لا يدركه بحث الهمم ولا يناله غوث الفتن، الذي ليس لصفته حد محدود ولا نعت موجود ولا وقت محدود ولا أجل ممدود، فترى الخلائق بقدرته ونشر الرياح برحمته ووتد بالسخر ميدان أرض، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وحبيبنا وحبيب رب العالمين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين، واللعن على أدائهم أجمعين من أول يوم ظلمهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه المبين وقوله الحق. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. من المؤمنين رجال صدقوا ما عاهدوا الله عليه، فمنهم من قضى نحبه ومنهم من ينتظر وما بدلوا تبديلا. صدق الله العظيم. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Tonight we are commemorating the Wiladat of Abul Abbas A.S. And when it comes to Maulana Abbas A.S, this verse of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Surah Al-Ahzab, verse number 23, مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ رِجَالٌ صَدَقُوا مَا عَاهَدُوا اللَّهَ عَلَيْهِ. Among the believers are men who have been true to their covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ قَضَى نَحْبَهُ وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَنْتَظِرُ. Of them are some who have completed their vow and some who still are waiting. وَمَا بَدَّلُوا تَبْدِيلًا. But they haven't changed their determination in the very least. They're still waiting for something. When it comes to this verse of the Quran, the narrations, they said that this was revealed regarding Amir al-Mu'mineen al-Islam and Hazrat Hamza alayhi salam. This vow that was made with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was the vow of sacrificing yourself for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Was the vow of sacrificing yourself for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This verse says some of them, they kept to their vow. Meaning that Hazrat Hamza alayhi salam, he kept to his vow. He sacrificed himself for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And some of them are waiting still. Meaning that Amir al-Mu'mineen is still waiting to sacrifice himself for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's true that this verse was revealed in honor of Amir al-Mu'mineen and Hazrat Hamza alayhi salam. But that doesn't mean that this verse will not apply to other individuals as well. Just as this verse was applying to Amir al-Mu'mineen in the context of Karbala. In the context of Karbala, you can apply this verse to Abul Fazl Abbas A.S. also. You can apply this verse to Maulana Hussain A.S. also. Why? Because when it comes to the narrations, one of the last individuals to sacrifice himself for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was who? Abul Fazl Abbas A.S. Everyone went before him. Meaning that vow, that covenant that they had made with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they had completed. Now who's waiting? Maulana Abbas. He's waiting to fulfill that. Once he fulfills it, then who's waiting? Abu Abdullah Hussain alayhi salam. He fulfills it. So you see that these verses of the Quran, yes, they were revealed regarding certain incidents that happened in the lifetime of the Holy Prophet, but they do not end in the lifetime of the Holy Prophet. As Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam, he says that time itself will do the tafsir of the Quran. Time will do the tafsir of the Quran. Meaning what? Meaning that there will be always, in time, as long as humanity exists, as long as the day of judgment has not come, there will be people who some of these verses of the Quran apply to. Meaning what? For example, the Quran, it speaks about Fir'aun so many times. Why is it speaking about Fir'aun in the time of the Holy Prophet when that Fir'aun who lived in the time of Hazrat Musa alayhi salam, he had already passed away, died 5,000 years ago? Why? It's because there's a Fir'aun that's living in the time of the Holy Prophet that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants the people to be reminded of. It's because even after the time of the Holy Prophet, there will come Fara'ina. They will continue to come. Fir'auns will continue to come. So that means that until the day of judgment, there's going to be Fir'auns. So if there's going to be Fir'auns until the day of judgment, if there's going to be Abu Sufyans until the day of judgment, if there's going to be evil until the day of judgment, alaykum salam, then that means that there will also be goodness until the day of judgment. There will also be goodness. When it comes to Abul Fazl Abbas A.S, the titles that he's been given, the moon of the Hashimi clan, the gate to the fulfillment of desires, the hope of the family of Muhammad al-Mustafa, the mirror image of Ali al-Murtaza, the answer to the prayers of Fatima al-Zahra, the brother of Hassan al-Mushtaba, the backbone of Abu Abdullah, the veil of Zainab al-Kubra, and the sacrifice of Zainab al-Sughra. This is who Mawla Abbas is amongst the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. The veil of Zainab al-Kubra, the sacrifice of Zainab al-Sughra salawatullah alayha. If you want individuals, if you want kids to follow the footsteps of Abul Fazl Abbas A.S and be ready to sacrifice their life for the Imam of the time, then the parents need to look at the life of Mawla Abbas and see what they get out of that and teach that to their children. Why? Because one of the lessons that you learn from the life of Mawla Abbas is that the mother constantly reminded Abul Fazl Abbas A.S that he's a servant and Hussein is a master. He's a servant and Mawla Hussein is the master. Meaning what? Meaning that always keep in mind that whatever the master tells you to do, it's wajib for you to do. Always keep that in mind. 1, 2, can a servant be equal to the master? Here in the world, is a worker equivalent to the boss? No, he's not. He's not. You cannot compare the two because the jobs are completely different. A servant cannot be equal to the master. This is what Lady Fatima bint Hizam al-Kilabiyya, this is what Lady al-Baneen is teaching her sons. That all of you are servants. Hassan is your master. Hussein is your master. Lady Zainab, she's your master. All of these individuals, the children of Fatima, they're not your equal. The children of Fatima are greater than you. You do what they tell you to do. This is how you understand Mawla Abbas. When you look at his life, the narrations, they say that when he came to this world, the first person that picked him up was who? Abu Abdullah al-Hussein al-Islam. Meaning when Imam Hussein al-Islam picked Abu Fazl Abbas al-Islam up, that's when Mawla Abbas opened up his eyes. So you see that the first individual that Mawla Abbas sees is who? Mawla Hussein al-Islam. The last individual that Mawla Abbas sees is who? Imam Hussein al-Islam. Look at the love that Mawla Abbas had for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein al-Islam. The first individual, the way Mawla Abbas defends Abu Abdullah al-Hussein al-Islam. If you want to know the courage, inshallah we'll speak about it, the courage of Mawla Abbas. There's a narration where after the events of Karbala, the caravan is now in Sham. It's in Syria. Yazid Lantullah alayhi, he has the heads of the shuhada. He sees the heads of the shuhada. Some of them on lances. Some of them there in front of him. Then he sees the standard, the alam that Mawla Abbas was carrying. And he sees that the place where you hold the standard, there's absolutely no mark. There's absolutely no mark. He looks at that and he gets surprised. He gets surprised. He goes, who was the standard bearer of this army? One of the individuals, he says, that head that is in front of you, that was the standard bearer. He was the alamdar. He looks at the standard again and he asks his generals, how is it that you were able to overcome this army when this army of Abu Abdullah Hussain alayhi salam had a standard bearer who did not even let a single blow come to his standard? I'm looking at the place where the alam is supposed to be held and I don't see any marks. How is it that you were able to defeat it? The first person he asked, the narration says that the first person he asked was Shimr. Shimr, just to please Yazid, he says to him, what? He says, oh Yazid, it was very simple. We went, we attacked, it took us no time at all, and we conquered them. We conquered them. Yazid, he brushes off because he's looking at the standard. He asked another general, tell me, how was it that you were able to conquer this army? The other general, he says the same thing. He said, Yazid, it was easy. It took as long as it takes to maybe bake bread. That was it. He brushes that off aside. Then he asked the third general. When he asked the third general asked Yazid, do you want me to tell you the truth or do you want me to lie? Do you want me to tell you the truth or do you want me to lie? Yazid, he says, no, I want you to tell me the truth. And that general, he says, Yazid, it was very difficult. It was very difficult. He goes, explain. The individuals that we were fighting, these individuals to us, they themselves look like they were not from this world. These individuals that we were fighting, they looked truly like they were the soldiers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To us, it looked like the swords that they were holding, it looked like lightning in their hands. It looked like there was lightning in their hands. Yazid, you told me to tell you the truth. That was just them. If you asking me about this individual, the one that was holding this standard, the one that was holding this flag, I will let you know that if it wasn't for the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He was enough to destroy all of us. He was enough to destroy all of us. Yazid asked, who was the standard bearer? Who was that standard? Who was the one who was holding the alam? The man, he says that it was Abbas ibn Ali, whose head is in front of you. The way he was fighting Yazid, the way he was fighting on that day, the soldiers that were in the front, they were running all the way to the back. Why? Because the way Abbas was going through the army, these soldiers, they were running everywhere. This is Maulana Abbas A.S. But when it comes to Maulana Abbas A.S, it's not just his strength. It's not just his strength. The basirat, the foresightedness that Maulana Abbas A.S. had. Imam Zainul Abidin A.S. himself, he talks about it. The foresightedness. If you want to look at the strength of Maulana Abbas A.S, the battle of Siffin, Maulana Abbas is in that battle. He's put on the armor of Amir al-Mu'mineen. He's going out into the battle. When he goes out to the battle, he kills not one, not two, not three, but he kills 7 sons of another enemy. When they see this individual, they think that this is Ali ibn Abi Talib that's come out to the battle. They think that is Mawla Amir al-Mu'mineen that's come out to the battle. But when they were thinking that it was Amir al-Mu'mineen, that's when Amir al-Mu'mineen himself appears. When he himself appears, that's when not just Amir al-Mu'mineen's camp, but the enemy's camp is astonished. If that's Ali right there, then who is that next to him who's been killing all of these soldiers? That's when Mawla Ali alayhi salam, he tells Abbas to unveil himself. And when they see, Amir al-Mu'mineen says, what? This is Abbas Qamar Bani Hashim. This was the shuja'at, this was the strength of Mawla Abbas at the age of 12. at the age of 12. You want to look at Mullah Abbas al-Islam and understand. Hazrat Abbas, look at the sermon of Mullah Abbas. The sermon that he gives in Mecca right before they leave. What does he say? He says, Alhamdulillahi allazi sharafa haza biqudumi abihi. 8th of Zul-Hijjah. 8th of Zul-Hijjah. Mullah Hussain is in his Hajj. He's going to leave Hajj towards Karbala. Mullah Abbas A.S, he looks at Mullah Hussain and he says to him, Mullah, do you give me permission? Do you give me permission to speak to these individuals? Mullah Hussain, he looks at Mullah Abbas, he says, Abbas, you have my permission. If you want to speak to them, you have my permission to speak to them. Mullah Abbas A.S, this is when he gives this sermon. Why? Because it's necessary for the hujjat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make sure everyone has received the message. Everyone has received the message. So what does Abul Fazl Abbas A.S do? He gives this sermon. Alhamdulillahi allazi sharafa haza biqudumi abihi. Praise, all praise belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who honored bihaza. He's pointing at the Kaaba. He's pointing at the Kaaba and he says what? Praise belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who honored this house, meaning the Kaaba, with the arrival of his father, with the arrival of the father of Abu Abdullah Hussain alayhi salam. Man kana bil ams baytan asbaha qibla. This house, it was just a house of bricks. But as soon as his father came to this house, that's when it became a qibla. When the father of Abu Abdullah Hussain alayhi salam came into this house, that's when this house truly became qibla. Why? What was missing? What was missing? What was missing was the soul of the Kaaba. That's what was missing. Just the same way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only commanded the angels to bow down in front of Hazrat Adam alayhi salam after the soul was put into the body, the same way we're ordered to bow down in front of the Kaaba after the soul of the Kaaba came into that body of Kaaba. The soul of Kaaba was Amir al-Mu'mineen. This is Mullah Abbas A.S describing to us, telling us his ma'rifat. He goes on to say, Ayyuhal kafaratul fajara. Ayyuhal kafaratul fajara. O you kafirs and fajirs. Why is Mullah Abbas A.S calling Hajis kafirs? This is Hajj. This is Hajj. You tell me, does a kafir go to Hajj? No. The only people that are allowed to go to Hajj are Muslims. Mullah Abbas, he's shouting, Ayyuhal kafaratul fajra. Oh, you kafirs and fajirs. You have to remember, if this was a lie, Mullah Hussain, he should have stood up and said, Abbas, do not say this. Mullah Hussain would have stood up and said, Abbas, do not say this. These people are not kafirs. These people are not fajirs. Abbas, these people are Muslim. The fact that Mullah Hussain stayed quiet and let Abul Fazl Abbas A.S finish his sermon tells you that the people that were there were kafir and fajirs. Why? Because if I'm saying a lie and the Imam is hearing me tell a lie, it becomes necessary for him to stop me. Forget the Imam. If a mu'min hears another mu'min lie, it becomes necessary for that mu'min to tell him, hey, this is a lie, do not say this. But that's Mullah Hussain alayhi who's there. He's hearing Abul Fazl Abbas alayhi say, Ayyuhal kafaratul fajra. Oh, you wretched people. Oh, you kafirs. You're not allowing the Imam of the pious to visit the Kaaba? The one who has the most right to do so? If it wasn't for the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not for the unseen mysteries of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had not willed that His creation would be tested, then it would be this Kaaba. It would have uprooted itself and flown to my master. If it wasn't for the mysteries And if it wasn't for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mashiat, Abul Fazl Abbas A.S, he goes on to say what? He goes on to say the mashiat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the mashiat of my Mawla. Meaning what? The will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the will of my Mawla. The will of my Mawla is the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what does this mean? If you were to say inshallah, Insha'Al Hussain, it's the same exact thing. It's the same exact thing. But Mullah Abbas, he goes on to say what? This Kaaba, it would have uprooted itself and flown to my master. But my Mawla came here himself and honored the Kaaba. And honored the Kaaba. Verily, people, they kiss Hajar al-Aswad, but it's Hajar al-Aswad that kisses my Mawla's hand. It's Hajar al-Aswad that kisses my Mawla's hand. The will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the will of my Mawla. The will of my Mawla is the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Mullah Abbas, he goes on to say, I swear by Allah, if it were not for this, then I would have attacked you the way the eagle attacks sparrows. The way an eagle, and the word Mullah Abbas uses for eagle, sakhar. Sakhar. If you look and Google sakhar, that same exact word is used, even in English. This type of eagle, this type of hawk, amongst the hawks, amongst the falcons, amongst the hawks, look at the basirat of Abul Fazl Abbas A.S. Amongst the hawks, amongst the falcons, this is the second greatest, the second largest, the second most vicious falcon there is. The second strongest. The second strongest. Why does Mullah Abbas A.S. use that same word for the second strongest? Why does he describe himself as the second strongest falcon? Why? Because he knows the first strongest is sitting underneath the Kaaba. He knows, he recognizes that the first strongest is sitting underneath. He knows what his place is. He knows what his place is in this world. His place isn't above Abu Abdullah al-Hussein a.s. His place is always beneath him. He knows. But he goes on to say what? He goes, I swear by Allah, if it were not for this, then I would have attacked you the way the eagle, the way the falcon attacks sparrows. I would have cut you into pieces, up in the skies. Are you trying to compete with those who played with death during their childhood? Are you trying to compete with those individuals that were playing with death in their childhood? Imagine how brave they would be to do such a thing in their youth. If they were playing with death in their childhood, imagine how brave these individuals will be now that they've grown up a bit. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sacrifice me upon my Mawla. May Allah not just may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sacrifice me. He goes on to say, Allah subhanahu, I've already sacrificed myself for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. Mullah Abbas is alive still. But he says what? I've already sacrificed myself for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. Meaning what? Meaning that this life that I have, it's not mine. This is Mullah Hussein's now. This is Mullah Hussein's. I've already sacrificed myself. That's it. As soon as he gives me the command to give my life for him, it's done. He goes on to say what? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sacrifice my life upon my master, who is the master of the universe. Not the master of earth. Not the master of heaven. No, the master of the universe. He goes on to say, O people, what has happened to your intellect? Do you not recognize what is the difference between the family of Prophet and the family of Yazid? On one side is the family of Yazid, who drinks alcohol, and on the other side is the master and owner of the pool of Kawthar. On one side are people whose house is the incarnation of evil and impurity, and on the other side is the house of those individuals who are the incarnation of purity itself. They are the owners of revelation in Quran. The fact that Mullah Abbas has to remind people that Mullah Hussain and his house is the house of revelation in Quran, and remind people about the house of Banu Umayyah. What does this tell you about the Muslims of that time? What does this tell you? It tells you, one of the things it tells you is that they stopped paying attention to Islam. One, two, or at the very least, by the time the Holy Prophet passed away, and by the time Abu Abdullah al-Hussein is going to sacrifice himself, people had forgotten who the Ahlul Bayt were. One of the two. They had forgotten who the Ahlul Bayt were. That's why Mullah Abbas is reminding them who the Ahlul Bayt are. They had forgotten who Banu Umayyah were. That's why Mullah Abbas is reminding them who Banu Umayyah were. He goes on to say what? He goes on to say, you're repeating the same mistake that Quraysh committed. They planned to kill Rasulullah, and you're planning to kill the son of Rasulullah. The Quraysh, they were not successful in their evil schemes. Why? Because they could not overcome Amir al-Mu'mineen. They could not overcome Amir al-Mu'mineen. Now, how can it be possible for you to kill Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam when the son of that Ali is the protector of the son of Rasulullah? How can you try? If you have the courage, then come and try and kill me. If you have the courage, then come and try and kill me. Then you will be able to fulfill your evil desires. After you take my life, then you will be able to fulfill your desire of taking the life of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. He goes on to say, I swear by Allah, as long as I'm alive, you will never be successful. And you see that this was absolutely true. As long as Mullah Abbas was alive, no one was able to even come near Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. Why? Because it would be Mullah Abbas who would protect Mullah Hussein. Whatever Mullah Hussein needed, it would be Mullah Abbas alayhi salam who would go to receive. Even when he was young, not just in Karbala, even when he was young. Some of the narrations, they state that Mullah Amir al-Mu'mineen, he's giving his sermon, and Mullah Hussein, he asked for water. When he asked for water, Mullah Abbas, he quickly goes to get the water. When he brings the water, that water, it falls from his hands onto the floor. Amir al-Mu'mineen, he stops his sermon. He looks towards Abbas and he starts to cry. He starts to cry. When he starts to cry, he comes, he stops his sermon, he comes and he picks up Mullah Abbas. He picks up Mullah Abbas and he starts to cry. Why? Because he's remembering what will happen in Karbala. And he says those famous words, he says those famous lines. Today this water was dropped because you were helping, or you were trying to go help your brother and get some water. Tomorrow you will lose your life trying to bring your brother water. This was Mullah Amir al-Mu'mineen picking up Mullah Abbas. In the lifetime of the Holy Prophet, the Holy Prophet is giving a sermon. The Holy Prophet is giving a sermon. When the Imams or the Prophets are giving sermons, what did the sermons consist of? The halal of Islam, the haram of Islam, the muharramat of Islam, the makruhat of Islam, the wajibat of Islam. Meaning what? When they're giving a sermon, it usually consists of the laws of Islam. Correct? So when the Holy Prophet is on the minbar giving a sermon, talking about the laws of Islam, the narration says that Abu Abdullah al-Hussein is just young. He walks in. When he walks in, he falls down. When he falls down, the Holy Prophet, he gets off from the minbar, he goes and picks Abu Abdullah al-Hussein up, he comes back on the minbar with him. He comes back on the minbar with him. But in that time period, what has the Holy Prophet stopped doing? He stopped preaching. Thank you so much. In that time period that it took for him to get off the minbar and pick Abu Abdullah Hussain alayhi salam up, he stopped preaching. Meaning what? He stopped giving what halal is. He stopped telling what haram is. He stopped telling what wajib is. He stopped telling what makruh is. Meaning what? For the sake of Hussain alayhi salam, this preaching will stop. This preaching about what's haram, halal, it will stop. Then he goes back up to the minbar with Abu Abdullah Hussain alayhi salam, and then he continues. You see that Mawla Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam is doing the same thing for Abul Fazl Abbas alayhi salam. He's on the minbar. He's preaching, telling people what is halal, telling people what is haram, reminding people of the day of Qiyamah. But when Mawla Abbas alayhi salam, he drops that water, Mawla Amir al-Mu'mineen, he stops preaching. He stops preaching to come and pick up Mawla Abbas. The same way that the Holy Prophet stopped preaching for Abu Abdullah al-Hussain alayhi salam, that same way Mawla Amir al-Mu'mineen, he stops preaching for Abul Fazl Abbas alayhi salam. The same way. Mawla Abbas alayhi salam, he goes on to say, the Quraysh were not successful in their evil schemes. The same way that Amir al-Mu'mineen protected the Holy Prophet, that same way I am going to protect my master, Abu Abdullah al-Hussain alayhi salam. After you have taken my life, then you might be able to fulfill your schemes of taking my master's life. I swear by Allah, as long as I am alive, you will never be able to overcome. You will never be successful in your schemes. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send His wrath upon you, your forefathers, and your offsprings. Abul Fazl Abbas alayhi salam, he's sending lanat on who? This is the sunnat of Mawla Abbas alayhi salam. Not just to send the lanat on the enemies of Abu Abdullah al-Hussain alayhi salam, but the sunnat of Abul Fazl Abbas alayhi salam is to send the lanat on the forefathers of the enemies of Abu Abdullah al-Hussain alayhi salam, the fathers of the enemies of Abu Abdullah al-Hussain alayhi salam, and the offspring of the enemies of Abu Abdullah al-Hussain alayhi salam. When we say, may lanat be on the enemies of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, that's not enough. Not for Mawla Abbas. For Mawla Abbas, it's not just the enemies of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. It's also the offspring of those enemies. It's also for the forefathers of those enemies. So you see how Mawla Abbas, he protected Imam Hussain alayhi salam. You see that Mawla Abbas here in this instance, he's acting as what? He's acting as a representative of Mawla Hussain alayhi salam. He's acting as a representative of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. This sermon, it doesn't just tell you how much loyalty Mawla Abbas had for Imam Hussain alayhi salam, but it gives you insight into what Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam says about him when he says that my uncle Abbas was blessed with profound perceptiveness of belief. He was blessed with complete insight when it came to Iman. He goes on to say that he supported the right party, stood steadfastly with his brother in the most difficult of circumstances, and did not leave him until he was martyred, even though he lost both of his arms. Even though he lost both of those arms. And what does it tell you about the individual when a Masoom himself testifies that you have completed what you needed to do? When a Masoom testifies that everything that you did was for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is Mawla Abbas. If you want to know the loyalty Mawla Abbas had, Shimr Lantullah alayhi, he comes with a pardon. Why? Because he was from the same clan that the mother of Mawla Abbas was from. from the same tribe. He was from the same tribe. So he comes with a pardon. When he comes out, he calls out for Mullah Abbas. Mullah Abbas doesn't want to answer him. He calls out again. Doesn't answer him. Then Mullah Hussain, he asks Mullah Abbas, Ya Abbas, go check what he wants. Answer him. Mullah Abbas, this is what it means. There's something that people need to understand. I hear so many times people say, I do taqleed of Imam Zaman. I do taqleed of Imam. I do taqleed of Imam. Brothers and sisters, you do not do taqleed of Imam. There's no taqleed of Imam. There's ita'at of Imam. Atiullah wa Rasul. Not qalladullah wa Rasul. What's the difference between taqleed and ita'at? Taqleed, in taqleed, there's how, there's why. In taqleed, you can question. In ita'at, there's no questioning. There's hukum and you follow through. So when people say, I'm doing taqleed of Imam, you're basically saying, I have a right to question the Imam. When it comes to taqleed, you have a right to question. And this is what happens in Qum, this is what happens in Najaf. The maraja that are there, the mujtahideen that are there, that are giving their fatwas, the students down there, they have a right to question, they question them. Where did you come up with this? How did you come up with this? Why did you have this? This alim has this marja has this, why do you have this? In taqleed, the why exists. In taqleed, the how exists. But when it comes to ita'at, the how does not exist, the why does not exist, that's masoom. He gives you a command, you do it. So this idea that I'm doing taqleed of an imam, think about what you're actually saying. You're actually saying, I can question the imam. When in reality, you and I do not have a right to question the imam. What he says, final. That's it. Mullah Abbas A.S, he's not doing taqleed of Imam Hussain A.S. He's doing ita'at of Imam Hussain A.S. When Mullah Hussain A.S. tells him to put away his sword, he puts away his sword. When he tells him to take out his sword, he takes out his sword. That's what ita'at means. That's what Mullah Abbas A.S. is doing. And that's what you see from his life. If you want an individual to do ita'at of the imam of the time, you'll have to look at the life of Mullah Abbas A.S. You'll have to look at the life. You can't find any better example than Mullah Abbas A.S. when it comes to doing ita'at of the imam of the time. You can't. I challenge anyone to come up with a better example of ita'at than Mullah Abbas. Than Mullah Abbas. You either have Mullah Abbas or Amir al-Mu'mineen. That's it. That's it. The other companion of the Holy Prophet? No. Other companion of Amir al-Mu'mineen? No. When it comes to following, when it comes to obeying, I should say, when it comes to obeying the masoom of the time, you don't have better examples than Mullah Amir al-Mu'mineen and Abul Fazl Abbas A.S. The way that Mullah Amir al-Mu'mineen obeyed the commands of the Holy Prophet, there is no better example. The way that Mullah Abbas obeyed the commands of Abu Abdullah al-Hussain A.S., you can't find a better example. You can't. This was Mullah Abbas A.S. Through the eyes of Imam Jafar Sadiq A.S. when he says that my uncle Abbas, sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad, when he says that my uncle Abbas, he had profound insight into the religion, into Iman. But Shimr, he comes with a pardon. He comes with a pardon. Mullah Abbas, like I said, he doesn't answer until Mullah Hussain A.S. tells him to answer. What does this tell you about marifat of imamat that Mullah Abbas had? Meaning what? He didn't answer the call of Shimr until the Mullah commanded him. He didn't even answer the call of Shimr until Mullah commanded him. When he goes Shimr, he tells Mullah Abbas, I have a pardon for you from Yazid Lanatullah alayh. Mullah Abbas, he looked at Shimr, he goes, how dare you? You have a pardon for us? Where's the pardon for my master, Abu Abdullah Hussain alayhi salam? When Shimr replies, there's no pardon for him. Abul Fazl Abbas alayhi salam, he leaves him alone. He says, I don't need that pardon. I don't need that pardon. Take it with you and go. If it was someone other than Mullah Abbas, you look at today, society today, Shias today, I'm not talking about non-Muslim, no, I'm not talking about the other sect, I'm talking about Shias today. If the government was to come and tell you, I'll give you this amount of money if you tell me about a certain individual, without missing a beat, where do I sign? Exactly. Without missing a beat. Shias today in some countries, they're willing and they're ready to throw their brother Shias and sisters under the bus just so they can save themselves. Shias, I'm not talking about the others. Obviously, you see what the other school of thought is doing. You look at Parachinar and you see. But Shias today, they're ready to throw their own under the bus just so they could get something. But you see, Mullah Abbas alayhi salam, he's been given a pardon. He said, no, this isn't for me. If my master does not have, no, it's not for me. Leave. You look at Mullah Abbas alayhi salam. I said in the beginning, Minal mu'minina rijalun sadaqu ma ahadullah alayhi. From the mu'mineen, amongst the mu'mineen, from the believers, amongst the believers, there are men who have been true to their covenant. Who have been true to their covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And of them, some of them held on. They've completed their covenant. They've completed their vow. And of them, some of them are waiting. And I said in the beginning, in the context of Karbala, this verse of the Quran will apply to each and every single individual who was waiting for their turn. Who was waiting for their turn. And one of those individuals was Mullah Abbas A.S. And if you want to see how Mullah Abbas became the way he became, you look at the way Lady Al-Banin raised him. You look at the way Lady Al-Banin raised him. From the beginning to the end, she made sure Mullah Abbas understood his role in that household. She made sure from a young age. These are the lessons that you and I need to learn from this household and implement in our own house. From a young age, if you treat a child like a child, their mentality will be the mentality of a child. But if you treat a child like an adult, their mentality will be the mentality of an adult. The mentality of an adult. You see that Lady Al-Banin, even though these individuals were children, she was treating them as if they were adults. As if they were adults. And this is something that we seem to forget. We hold on to the Ahlul Bayt, but what lessons are we learning from their life? You look at Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he was not treated like a child. You look at Mullah Hussain alayhi salam, they were not treated mentally like children. No, they were mentally treated like adults. Even though physically they were children, mentally they were not. Why? Because they were not treated like children. They were not treated like children. This is the lesson that you and I need to learn from this household. Once we learn this lesson, then our children will be ready to sacrifice themselves for the Imam. They themselves will be ready. But the problem is that we weren't taught these lessons that when we were children. And because we weren't taught these lessons when we were children, it's hard for us to pass these on. It's hard for us to pass these on. Maulana Abbas, one of his titles is what? Yes, Qamar Bani Hashim. One of the titles is Abul Fazl. What's Abul Fazl mean? Fazl, what does Fazl mean? Fazl means virtue. Fazl means generosity. Fazl means virtue. Abul Fazl means what? The father of virtue. The father of generosity. The father of virtue. The father of generosity. So if you want to ask for something, would you not ask the father of generosity of what you want? If you want to ask for something, would you not be at the doorsteps of the gate to the fulfillment of desires, which is Babul Hawaj? Tonight is the night that we're commemorating the Wiladat of Maulana Abbas A.S, Babul Hawaj. And this is where I want to end my lecture off with. Tomorrow, inshallah, Wiladat of Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam. Wiladat of Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam, the program, I believe, is starting 8 o'clock. Thank you so much. Tomorrow's program is going to start at 8 o'clock, Wiladat of Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam. Like I've said many times before, when it comes to some of these Imams, we completely skip over them. MashaAllah, yesterday you saw how it was for Maulana Hussain alayhi salam. Today you see how it is for Maulana Abbas alayhi salam. Tomorrow you'll see how it is for Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam. And tomorrow we're commemorating the wiladat of that Imam who's known, or whose book is known, Sahifa Sajadiyah, is known as what? What is that Sahifa Sajadiyah known as? The second Zabur. We're commemorating the wiladat of that individual tomorrow. So please, tomorrow 8 o'clock, wiladat of Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam. And before we end, please recite a Surah Fatiha for your marhumeen, for the marhumeen of the names that are on the wall in the back, for the marhumeen of those individuals that sponsored tonight's lecture, and for the marhumeen of all of those mu'mineen, mu'minat that do not have anyone to pray on their behalf. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Ya Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta alaihim ghayril maghdubi alaihim waladdallin. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Qul huwallahu ahad. Allahu samad. Lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Qul huwallahu ahad. Allahu samad. Lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Bismillah. Allahumma aghfirhum warhamhum waskinhum bijawar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. This is the night that our desires are fulfilled. Please, the first thing everyone should do is pray for the reappearance of Imam Zaman alayhi salam, because in his reappearance is the faraj of all of mankind. Secondly, all of those mu'mineen, mu'minat that are mareez, all of those mu'mineen, mu'minat that are ill, please recite 5 times Ayatul Karima for their well-being. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Amma yujibul mustarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su'. Amma yujibul mustarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su'. عما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء عما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. Please recite salawat with a loud voice. اللهم صل على اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. The jashan is done for tonight. Inshallah, tomorrow, 8 o'clock, jashan of Imam Zain al-Abidin al-Islam. 8 o'clock tomorrow, jashan of Imam Zain al-Abidin al-Islam. Bismillah.
السلام عليك يا خير خلق الله. السلام عليك يا سيد المرسلين. السلام عليك يا خاتم النبيين. السلام عليك الذي دنا فتدلى فكان كاب قوسين أو أدنى. السلام عليك يا حبيبنا وحبيب إله رب العالمين. السلام عليك يا حجة الله في العالمين ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله. السلام عليك وعلى جدك وأبيك. السلام عليك وعلى أمك وأخيك. السلام عليك وعلى أخوك أبا الفضل العباس. السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا ابن أم البنين. السلام عليك يا سمر الدعاء فاطمة الزهراء سيدة النساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا سيد الوفاء. أحسن الله لك الجزاء ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا غريب الغرباء. السلام عليك يا معين الضعفاء والفقراء. السلام عليك يا مغيث الشيعة والزوار في يوم الجزاء. السلام عليك يا أنيس النفوس. السلام عليك أيها المدفون بأرض توس وأبنائك الأربعة وآبائك السبع ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا صاحب العصر والزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان. السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان. الأمان 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 من فتنة الزمان يا قامي الكفر والطغيان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك وجنى الله من أنصارك وأعوانك ورحمة الله وبركاته.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة ولي وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وإنا حتى تسكنه أرزك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآله